we go.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have vowed to take away your Second Amendment rights through gun bans, gun confiscation, and government regulations. Now, Joe Biden is no longer hiding his real intentions, and we need you to take action now.
Whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, it is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things. But
the Biden administration is coming after your right to own any gun, and we need you to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Joe Biden has already issued executive orders. He is now demanding Congress push through radical gun legislation. You can fight back to stop Joe Biden's gun grab, but you must text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Take action to protect your right to keep and bear arms. We urgently need millions of Americans to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Polite Society. No, it's not Polite Society podcast. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. If I don't improve, maybe not for long. Joining me today, Amanda Suffecool, and yes, it is Thursday, not a Wednesday. Mike Piwowarski got caught in the air today. He's flying, and so Amanda agreed to step in. Amanda, thanks for joining us today.
No problem at all. I got home last night, so, I landed, Mike took off, away we go.
We've got some news out of Ohio today to get started with. Ohio, the Senate finally passed constitutional carry. It looks like Ohio, instead of number 40, Ohio looks like they're going to be number 22 to get constitutional carry.
I know, isn't that amazing? I am so shocked yet glad, because I fully expected them to drop the ball one more time and think about it, because it requires deep contemplation. But it's really funny because one of the senators that voted against it is absolutely a pro-gun guy, and he is so pro-gun that he is pro-police and pro all of that. And so one of the police unions got his ear that was anti the constitutional carry bill, and so he's kind of sitting there with one foot in the banana pudding, if you will, where he's on a slippery slope because he didn't vote with the way he walks and the way he talks. He voted with the police and the police. It's really funny because the police I know and the police that I interact with and the police that we hear from, the guys and gals that are on the streets, that are in the trenches, they are pro-gun for everybody unless somebody's trying to shoot them. And but those who are up in the high exalted offices are anti-gun. And so it's just a kind of a weird thing. And so my personal senator, though he is very pro-gun, voted no. And I'm so disappointed in him. But I'm so glad that it passed.
I get this up. Charlie says, Ambassador Suffecool is on. And he says, and as a Michigan Wolverine alumnus, go Buckeye State on constitutional carry.
I'm telling you. Yeah, so I just came from the Ambassador Academy. 16 new 2A ambassadors were graduated as of yesterday at about 3 p.m. And it's amazing watching the 5-day transition from somebody who wants to know how to do it to somebody who's absolutely nailed it.
Very cool. And if you would, before we get off to our other, because we've got a lot of other news we want to talk about.
Great.
Tell everybody a little bit about that Ambassador Academy. That is something really amazing that you folks do.
Oh, it really is. And I went in 2019 as a student, And I was so enthralled with what they had to do and say that when they offered me an opportunity to go back as an instructor, I was like, would I? Can I? Sure, count me in. And I mean, this first, look up the videos for Western Orlando Firearms Training, WOFT, WOFT, and just check the videos out of the stuff that they do. They've got low light, they've got active shooter, they've got an entire room that is focused on nothing but teaching you hand-to-hand and knife fighting. And so all of that is embedded in this class. At the same time, they bring in a firearms expert, one of the top in the country. And this year it was Kay Miklick. And so these students got to spend, I think, like 12 hours back and forth, different teams with Kay. They got to learn social media and how to really the recipe for success on like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where they should spend their time, their energy, their motivation to get their messages across. They learned how to do public speaking, do a bio, do a pitch, do an elevator pitch, hostile media. It's just the stuff that's all in there is amazing. Diana and Ryan Muller, they are an absolute class act. The Ambassador Academy is like nothing else you're ever going to see anywhere. And I honestly think that that it would benefit to send some of my state politicians there to learn how to get their stories out, how to get their messages out, and how to communicate in this world where we don't talk to one another right now. We all work with the little magic box, and so that's really what Ambassador Academy was teaching you.
Very cool. I get a couple comments in here going back to constitutional carry. Diane says the police and sheriffs was not for it. I that was the same thing. That was what really gutted it in Indiana, was the state police were adamantly opposed. And the governor, Yeah, and it's the high up organizations, because it's not the in the trenches guys. It's not the actual sheriff. I mean, most of the county sheriffs that I have interacted with, and I interact with multiples of them, and not hello officer, yes I was speeding. No, but it's just I interact with them on a social aspect and that type of thing, and they are not anti-constitutional carry or anti-concealed carry or Second Amendment. It's just the guys that are in the high offices, top brass. And this one, this comment, it just caught me totally by surprise. It didn't hit my radar at all, and I'm pretty plugged in. John over on the Facebook side says Maryland House Bill 1206 for constitutional carry is now in the House Judiciary Committee for a hearing. Amanda, that never hit my radar at all. I was figuring Maryland actually was going to be number 40, somewhere in 40 to 45 to get 45, constitutional carry. Yeah,
it would be high up there. But look at it. I mean, so right now it's Alabama. So Pennsylvania's been chewing around, Indiana's been chewing around, Alabama's chewing around, Ohio's chewing around, now Maryland. With the fact that there are 21, soon to be 22 states that have constitutional carry, and those many states that are actively involved in it, says that we're going to have it on a national scale soon. Because when it tips past the center line, it really starts to push as well. It doesn't really make sense not to.
What I need to do, and I think this may be my project for tomorrow morning, if not tonight, I need to go through and do some number crunching, get some census data. We're going to get in the very near future, especially if Georgia is probably going to get it this year, which will make 24. Because Ohio, every
Ohio is
I've
going
seen
to
has said DeWine is that sources close to DeWine say he's probably going to sign it.
He doesn't have a choice. He really doesn't have a choice. Here's his issue, is he is being primaried by two pro-gun, very active people. One of them's on his tail pretty hard. And so DeWine needs the sportsman in the Second Amendment. DeWine is also going to get the endorsement from the NRA, not because he's pro-gun, but because the House and Senate, which are primarily Republican, have forced him to vote for things that to sign things that he didn't really have much of a choice on. So he went along and signed them grudgingly, but did. So the NRA is going to go based on his voting record, not his voting opinion. Mm-hmm. If he thought that he had the backing, he would be absolutely blazing anti.
Okay. All right. So Ohio's going to get this. As you said, DeWine doesn't have much of a choice.
Wait, is it to quote Nancy Pelosi?
I honestly believe Georgia is going to get it. Alabama may. That would make Ohio, Ohio is going to be 22. Georgia, I believe, is going to be 23. That'll put us too short of halfway in the states. What I'm wondering is, how close are we getting to half of the population? Admittedly, a lot of the states, South Dakota, that have constitutional carry are low population states. South Dakota's got less than 700,000 population. There are neighborhoods in New York City that have more population than South Dakota does as a state.
Well, when the motorcycle rally happens in your state,
yeah, then we
more than doubles your population.
Yes.
Right. So you can look at it as how much acreage and how many people. So both of those, so that you can say geographically more than 50% of the geographic area of the United States is constitutional carry.
And I believe with Ohio, we're going to hit that before we hit 25. 25 states, we're going to hit over 50% geographically with Ohio.
Right. And it's all in that whole statistics thing that you can make numbers do whatever you want. Which way you want to do it? Oh, look at that. More than 50% of the United States has got constitutional carry by acreage, and it just is however you want to make it go that way.
Well, the next story I want to get, I'm going to juggle things around a little bit. I'm going to go to one that I want to get to, but I think is going to be a shorter one, and simply because the one we go to after that, I think is going to take up all the time we have plus a little bit. The next story I want to get to, Amanda, is I am a NASCAR fan. I've never made any bones about that, and one of the teams that I follow closely in NASCAR is Richard Childress Racing. Richard Childress, of course, used to be on the board of directors for the NRA, and he made news today in that Richard Childress has said that through a company he works with, he's going to donate 1 million rounds of ammunition to the people of Ukraine. And my initial question was, how is he going to get past ITAR? But you explained to me that is not a big deal because it's a company, it's not a person.
Yeah, it's not a person. I mean, you've got to look at it as import and export, and then you look at where all the ammo comes from, and so much of it comes from the Aziki stands, right? The whatever they are, the stands countries. So he doesn't necessarily even have to have ammo that's in the United States shipped to the Ukraine. It can be that company, their exporters move it from one country to another, that they've already got stuff on the docket, just they need to pay for it. He may just financially be covering it. It's very generous. It makes a statement. It is amazing. And I want to tell you that somebody else was telling me that they are trying to figure out how to support people in the Ukraine, and they're doing it via an Airbnb on a much smaller scale than his $300,000 or $400,000 worth of ammo that's going into the Ukraine. That people are searching out Airbnbs in the Ukraine, booking them, paying for them, canceling them to allow someone else to book.
Oh.
And so your credit card gets hit for something and you just cancel, no refund, and somebody else books it and does the same thing.
Okay, so the people get income.
Whoever
from
has
Airbnb.
a bingo.
Okay. All right.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a comment in here from Charlie. He says, North Carolina is the home of NASCAR. Childress is a good man. Robert Tillman is too. Drive fast, turn left. You know, I got to say, Charlie, NASCAR does hit road courses as well, so they do turn right about 4 or 5 times a year. They turn left and right. So, let's see here. Next one I'm going to get to, and I think we're the rest of the time we've got for the broadcast is probably going to be eaten up by this one.
Can I guess what story we're going to be talking about?
Go for it.
I think it's got 3 letters.
And it's not IRS, no.
Right? And it originates in New York.
And the charter does, yes.
170 some years ago. I don't know,
Yes,
something like that. No,
absolutely.
we're going to talk a little bit about the Letitia James NRA and the new judge's decision that just came out because it's so darn interesting. So you take the lead and I'll jump in.
Yeah, we are going off of where I'm getting most of my information is from our friend John Richardson's blog.
And he's getting it from everywhere because he's linking in stories from all over the place.
And I got to say, I'm a little bit jealous of John simply because he has the ability to and the information sources to go way beyond where I can go, and he's got the intelligence to get all this information together and discern it and put it into a way that I can understand, which is a real talent. But basically what has happened is there is good news for everybody except Wayne LaPierre in the Letitia James versus NRA filings. The judges said, no, you cannot dissolve the NRA.
Okay, let's talk on that for a minute.
Yes.
Because what happened was Letitia James actually ran for office on the platform that she was going to take down the NRA, she was going to shut down the NRA, and she was going to seize all of its assets. And because the NRA is a 501c3, a not-for-profit, at least a portion of it, because the NRA actually has 3 different arms. Mm-hmm. But the not-for-profit portion of the NRA, they can't move their assets. They are in the state of New York. They can't move. They can't just pick it up and move it someplace else like it would be if you were a business. As a not-for-profit, if you disband your not-for-profit, those assets stay in the state and go over and get donated to a like-minded organization. And so the NRA says that it is gun safety, firearms education. So does Moms Demand Action, the Giffords Foundation, all of those organizations, yep. Every town. And so the true fear was that they were going to disband the NRA and give every town in Moms Demand all the NRA's money. That the NRA Museum was embedded in that, and the NRA Museum is not protected as a museum. And so it would have had to been liquidated and given to them. And can you imagine just how angry all the NRA members would be for that disbursement of assets? So this judge said, no, that can't happen, that whatever the NRA has done may be an issue, but it's not egregious enough to disband the NRA, that its members did not do anything that would justify the disbanding or the dismemberment of the NRA.
Right. I want to quote out of John's blog post here. He says, while the NRA will not be dissolved, this is not to say that the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, and the others are in the clear. The third and fourth causes of action against LaPierre and John Fraser allege breach of fiduciary duty. This was allowed to proceed onwards. Likewise, Judge Cohen found that the allegations contained in the seventh and eighth causes of action, which accused both LaPierre and Fraser of failing to properly administer charitable assets, were sufficient to proceed. The big win is they cannot trash the NRA. They cannot rip it apart and distribute it to the likes of Bloomberg and Giffords. This doesn't mean that everything is in the clear. Especially good news for NRA members is that it doesn't clear Wayne LaPierre. I personally, and you and I have disagreed on this in the past, I personally think that Wayne did a great job. Wayne's time, when he did a great job, was a long time ago, and it's time for somebody else to lead, and that time has been here for a long time.
You know, Paul, we have vehemently disagreed, because I believe in, that there are times when people are like, this ought to happen or that ought to happen. And I think that it's like, to each thing there is a season. The more that comes out, this may be that season, but so I'm not going to argue as vehemently, because if there are truths behind even 10% of the stories that come out, and because there's some that there's no way in the world that they are true, and there's some where it was very obvious that someone had access to private employees, their employee records, things like that, where they rolled out things about people in and around Wayne's circle that hadn't done anything, that maybe had a prior record, had a this, had a that, and they rolled them out and threw them in the mud. And that stuff is stuff that I have a real hard time with. Now it is, we let the courts decide this. My biggest fear was, would they take the entire NRA down? And the answer is no. So now it's fighting for a man's reputation and then restructuring the organization with whatever decisions the courts deem as the correct ones after this.
Yeah. I've said this before. My boss has said this before. Alan Gottlieb has said this before. And I think it's true now. We need a strong NRA. We need a strong and growing NRA. The Second Amendment Foundation does one thing much better than the NRA does. We sue people. And right now, I believe we are better than the NRA is at connecting with people. I honestly believe that. But the NRA is extremely good at lobbying, and they've got a very, very good training program.
And they've got, and that's it. And so, and they've got this network that is all across the United States that they need to utilize and use, and not tear it apart and tear it down. So it's going to be interesting to see where the pieces fall and who goes where and when,
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the claims, did Fraser do anything, or he didn't not do something? He didn't stop things.
I think that's the major thing, is that he
didn't enrich himself.
I think is where Fraser is he didn't stop LaPierre. I think where the big thing is there. And I wish we had John on right now, because he can do this
John
stuff
Richardson.
Yeah, I wish we had John, because he can do this stuff off the top of his head, and I cannot.
Well, there's so many moving parts. There's so many stories that come through, and just some of them you just read them and wow, and others it's like, okay, I don't know, So, and then I look at a lot of this because the other piece that came out today was the fact that the NRA and Ackerman McQueen settled. Because some of the stuff that's come out, I look at it to be that the NRA and Ackerman McQueen was in the middle of an ugly divorce, and there was serious mudslinging as they fought over the children. So, whatever you could do to make the other one look bad, they were doing it. And so that's one of the filters that I've always used as I've watched this, is to say who rolled the story out and what did they have to gain. Then, if it's somebody that's not involved in them, that would be one thing. But otherwise, it's okay. What is the ulterior motive?
Yeah, and when John Richardson wrote about that, I'm going to quote him directly off of his blog. He says, "The timing is very interesting, as it does come a day after Judge Cohen issued a partial dismissal of New York Attorney General's dissolution case. As a friend noted, they are both so dirty and intertwined that neither can afford to let it get to trial." And then he ended with a clip off of YouTube of Artie Johnson going with his "very interesting."
You're showing your age, Paul. Showing your age.
Well, there is that. Not that I ever, watched TV in the early 70s, but, there is that.
I think there were scantily clad women on that show.
There might have been.
Might have been.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Sock it to me. Anyway, let's. We're getting down towards the time we have, and I'm looking.
You got any comments?
Yeah, let's.
Or is everybody just looking at it like it's a train wreck?
Let me get a couple from Charlie Chambers in here. Charlie says, "Agree with Paul 100% on NRA as quoted by Mr. Gottlieb. NRA is important. SAF is powerful too."
I'm a life member of both, and I urge every one of you to be the same.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, and Diane, I think you're 100% on point on this one. If Wayne goes, I think you'll see more people joining the NRA. And Diane, I think beyond that, I think if Wayne goes, you're going to see an uptick in donations to the NRA. I myself, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, stopped donating to the NRA. I've not given up my life membership, but I stopped donating. And if Wayne departs, I will probably, if Amanda Suffecool were to become the executive vice president in charge of the NRA, I would absolutely continue my donations to the NRA.
How about Amanda Suffecool just start with running for the board? Because that is on the docket. You guys are going to hear this first. I have decided that after the NRA annual meeting this year in Houston, that I will start pulling petitions to run by petition.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So I'm going to reach out to all you guys and say, reach out to your NRA Life members and voting members and grab a petition. I'll make them available, but please consider that.
Well, and you're gonna hear about it again and again and again if you're going to be tuning in here, because we've got from the NRA meetings are going to be coming up in
Memorial Day weekend.
Okay,
we're going to do a fashion show there. As soon as the meeting, you can't pull a petition until after the meeting is over, where they elect that year's member, that year's board. Then the next hopefuls can pull a petition the very next day.
Very, very good. Let me get a couple more comments in here. We're just about up to time, but I got to get a couple of these in.
Who watches the clock but you?
Oh, yeah, well, there is that.
DJ Play Nice. Laughing.
Bet your sweet Bippy. Absolutely. And Charlie Chambers wants you and Tom Gresham on the NRA board.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Tom Gresham would. He doesn't say NRA without spitting. So I'm not sure that he would ever, but you can pitch it to him, and it may be that with a change in the weather, he'll consider something. But I don't know. There's still a whole lot of moving pieces, folks. It's not over. But to me, the biggest threat was just announced that it is over. That was where my biggest concern was.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are past our time. Amanda, I want to thank you so much for stepping in on short notice today.
No problem at all. Anytime, Paul.
All right, I want to remind everybody, please do come join us again 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow for another Daily Bullet, and join us at noon on Saturday for the Weekly Bullet. And do not forget to come join us again Monday evening, 5 p.m. Central Time. We've got a really cool Polite Society podcast coming up this week. You've seen us play the DC Project video featuring Mary Forges with her story of how she was attacked in her home. Mary Forges is going to be on the Polite Society podcast Monday evening. I want to invite everybody to come see us on Monday night for the Polite Society podcast. For tonight, everybody, thank you for watching, and come join us for another Daily Bullet tomorrow.